Everybody set? Everyone good? Excellent. Well, let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Joining me this morning are San Diego Police Chief David Nislight, Assistant Fire Chief John Wood, and I also want to acknowledge the presence of my Senior Policy Advisor over public safety issues. Chloe Madison is here as well. As you all know, this is my monthly media briefing where we take a moment to share a little bit about the upcoming month at City Hall, as well as other issues within the City of San Diego, and then, of course, take questions on any subject you all may be interested in. Today, I want to take this opportunity to provide some specific updates on the work that we are doing in public safety and on keeping San Diegans safe. Let's start with some good news. Recently, SANDAG has, through its Criminal Justice Research Division, released its report on the crime rates for the first half of 2023. I'm pleased to report that it shows both violent crime and property crime are down 7% compared to the same period of time last year. Overall, this report has shown that San Diego County region has experienced a steady decrease since the pandemic spike that we saw in 2021. This is particularly true when it comes to violent crime. As our police chief can attest, the city of San Diego remains one of the safest big cities in America. And as mayor, I attribute that success to the excellent work of our police department, the great leadership of our police chief, and the partnership that we have with public safety counterparts throughout our region. The San Diego community is bound together by our shared values of peace, order, and justice. And that is in furtherance of every person in the city being able to live their lives with the assurance that they are safe, that their rights are protected, and that lawlessness is overshadowed by unity and civic responsibility. In addition, unlike other American cities, the attrition rate in our police department has slowed in recent months. My administration has made it a priority to invest in our city workforce, prioritizing pay increases, better parental leave, and even creating child care options. On that end, for our San Diego Police Department, we are on track to open a child care facility later this year that caters to the non-traditional hours of our police officers. This program was led by the San Diego Police Officers Association, and I want to give special thanks to our Senate President Pro Tem Toni Atkins for her work in Sacramento to secure the funding necessary to make this critical child care facility possible. I'd also like to mention that later this month, we will be holding the 3rd Annual Women's Hiring Expo. This year, we will have some of the officers who were hired after previous expos come and speak with new attendees about their interest in joining the San Diego Police Department. I encourage anyone who's interested to please participate in that expo later this month. Now, with all this positive news on how we're working and keeping San Diego safe, I want to make sure that we stay that way. And in that vein, tomorrow, the City Council's Public Safety Committee will take up our contract for smart streetlights and for automated license plate readers. These are two important investigative tools that were shut down back in September of 2020 before I took office, while the City Council has worked on putting rules in place governing the use of surveillance technologies. That ordinance, known as the Privacy Ordinance, was finally passed by the City Council in August of 2022. Smart streetlights and automated license plate readers were the first to go through the process detailed under the Privacy Ordinance. It has been a months-long and arduous journey to get to this point. As we've operationalized and worked to implement this ordinance, I need to point out the flaws that have been revealed. This ordinance, as written, applies far more broadly than I think anyone expected or intended when it passed. It means that we have to take dozens of very basic and common technologies through a months-long public vetting process. This process, as laid out in the ordinance, includes producing an impact report and an annual report, holding meetings on each individual technology in all 9 city council districts, followed by a review by our Privacy Advisory Board with all the appropriate noticing requirements, and then a visit with the San Diego City Council. Here's the thing. We're talking about some of the most basic technologies, common things that we all experience and support, things like police body-worn cameras, employee key card access technology on the doors at our municipal airports, even Google Maps. All are getting caught up and are subject to the provisions under the Privacy Ordinance, as currently written. Over 2,000 meetings would be required for all of our technologies that the city uses to be covered by the ordinance. This is a massive problem, particularly for our public safety departments who are constantly upgrading the technologies that they need to keep us all safe. It not only hinders the adoption of these latest technologies, but it also precludes us from being even able to apply for the grants to actually purchase these technologies. Under the current ordinance, they would need to take those technologies through a months-long process prior to even applying for those grants. And I tell you that we are already experiencing this. We have missed out on the opportunity to apply for grants because these grant opportunities open and close in less time than it takes to actually run the new technology through the Privacy Ordinance process. And while we can acknowledge the Privacy Ordinance has a right and noble goal, ensuring that the public is informed about the surveillance tools that their city government uses and to understand their potential impacts on all of us, the fact is that we cannot allow this to grind our city operations to a halt, and we cannot allow it to jeopardize public safety. And so I'd like to turn it over to our police chief, David Nizlight, and to our assistant fire chief, Wood, to provide some additional details on what this has meant for the operations within their departments. We'll start with our police chief.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mayor Gloria mentioned, we are pleased to see the crime stats for the first half of 2023 are trending downwards. This is great news, but we shouldn't take it for granted. Your San Diego Police Department is out there every day, working hard to keep you safe and investigate crimes when they occur and prevent crimes from occurring. Unfortunately, there is another topic that the mayor touched on that will threaten our ability to do that. As your police chief, I am committed to transparency. What I say today, I say in the spirit of transparency. So far, your police department has spent nearly $500,000 of staff time trying to comply with this ordinance, and not a single technology has completed the process. We started the Smart Streetlights proposal in March, and we are still working through the approval process. We are set to meet with the Privacy Advisory Board again tonight on body cameras that our officers have had since 2014. That's 9 years. This should not be a controversial issue. Body cameras have become a community expectation and a national standard. I'm an advocate for oversight. The police department has spent thousands of hours working to comply with this ordinance. We have proactively published the technology we use on our website months ago. However, after working for months to comply, I can only come to one conclusion. This ordinance is not oversight, it is obstruction. The flaws in this ordinance will hamper our ability to investigate serious crimes, protect victims, and keep our communities safe. If the current process can't handle one single technology since its passage, how is it supposed to handle reviewing hundreds of technologies every year? Currently, San Diego Police Department has 17 technologies that are expired or expiring. These technologies are used to investigate child predators, murders, rapists, sexual predators, and arsonists. These are the tools that we use to keep San Diego one of the safest large cities in America, and we are on the brink of turning them off because of this ordinance. Some might say this is a scare tactic. Folks, these are the facts. Many of the technologies we already have robust oversight. Several of them are mandated by the state of California and the Department of Justice. Others require a warrant signed by a judge before we can use them. And now, under this ordinance, they all must go through additional processes that take 6 months or more to complete and then have to be repeated again every single year. If we can't find a fix, and soon, San Diego PD is going to go back to using the technology from the 80s and 90s, and that's not what our communities want or need. No victims want to hear their cases can't be solved because their detectives don't have the most basic tools at their disposal. I'm calling on our elected officials to fix this problem so we can get back to the work of providing the safest city in America. Thank you.
Good morning. The Fire Rescue Department relies heavily on grant funding. The Urban Area Security Initiative, also known as the UASI grant, was created by the federal government after 9/11. San Diego Fire Rescue has participated in this grant since its inception and has received millions of dollars worth of equipment. Department divisions that have received funding include the Lifeguards, Bomb Squad, the Hazardous Materials Team, Urban Search and Rescue, which is a team that provided search and rescue during 9/11, the 911 Dispatch Center, Air Operations, which is critical in our wildland fire environment, and the All Hazard Incident Management Team. The dollar amount that the department receives per fiscal year has been approximately $2 million, with a 5-year total of approximately $10 million. The current grant projects are at risk are the Bomb Squad Unmanned Aerial System for a total of $322,000, the Lifeguard Camera System upgrades for Mission Bay for a total of $240,000. Also at risk is San Diego Fire Rescue's Bomb Squad accreditation. The Fire Rescue Department operates as the FBI-accredited public safety bomb squad for the entire city of San Diego. Most of the bomb squad's equipment is purchased through UASI grant funds to include ground robots, which are designed to keep our bomb technicians safe. To be accredited, a bomb squad must have at least one ground robot with specific capabilities as defined by the FBI. The ordinance as is currently written will make it nearly impossible to purchase this type of ground robot. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Wood, and thank you, Chief Nizlight. As you heard, this is a real problem, and we have implemented the legislation that was passed, but it's not working. And we have no choice but to fix it, and we will. Next month, after further engagement with local stakeholders, I'll be bringing forth a series of amendments to the Privacy Ordinance that will intend to address this very important issue. All of these amendments will keep faith with the broadly embraced objective of ensuring transparency and accountability regarding the use of surveillance technology, while also fixing the process to ensure that we can stay up to date and function at a high level in line with San Diegans' expectations. With those comments, I want to make a couple quick updates, and then again, happy to take your questions. In the vein of amending laws after seeing how they work once implemented, which is, by the way, very healthy for government to do, I'm pleased to be here today to say that the City Council's Community and Neighborhood Services Committee this afternoon will consider amendments to the Sidewalk Vending Ordinance, and those amendments are being authored by Councilmember Dr. Jennifer Campbell. As many of you have covered in recent months, some vendors have found and exploited the definition of vending and are claiming First Amendment protections for the sale of their goods. Councilmember Campbell's amendments will ensure that there is no ambiguity on the subject of regulation, who's regulated under this ordinance, and the proposed changes to enforcement to include a process for impounding equipment for violations of the rules. I look forward to the full City Council's consideration of these amendments, and I urge approval so that I can sign them into law and effectively regulate sidewalk vending in our city. A second subject I want to cover with you this morning is OLOT, our safe sleeping site. We will soon open the city's second safe sleeping site, known as OLOT. As a reminder, this is a part of our city's comprehensive shelter strategy that seeks to bring more people experiencing homelessness off of our streets and into care. This site will accommodate approximately 400 tents, and each tent can hold up to 2 people. We're currently finalizing contracts with our selected operators for this site. We've already done the necessary site improvements, including things like utilities, bathrooms, laundry facilities, and roads to help facilitate the entry and exit of trucks and emergency vehicles. Each campsite has a platform with an insulated tent that provides for both warmer and cooler temperatures, and a cot and a sleeping bag for each client. Now, it's important to note that this will be building on the success that we've had with our first safe sleeping site at 20th and B. With the opening of OLOT, 20th and B will remain open to serve people experiencing homelessness. Safe sleeping has proven to be a good option to be able to offer to folks who resist congregate shelter, and we're happy to create more of these unique shelter opportunities to help people to stay safe in a more sanitary environment while accepting services that will help end their homelessness. With all those updates, I appreciate your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on your minds.
I just have 2 questions. One
Sure.
is, I know you mentioned something's happening tomorrow with the privacy ordinance, or what is it exactly?
So tomorrow is a special meeting of the Council's Public Safety Committee. They will be meeting to take up the contracts that will actually help allow us to deploy smart streetlights and automated license plate readers. You may remember a few weeks ago the City Council granted us the authority to move forward with that technology. This action would authorize the contract with the vendor to provide those services. The committee is meeting tomorrow. Assuming it advances out of committee, the full City Council would have to vote. And ultimately, this is the final step towards actually activating that technology. We have the authorization. Now we need the ability to have the contractor actually perform, to deploy the technology.
And then you said next month is when you're going to
Yes.
One other thing I was just going to ask, I know we've been covering the homelessness crisis extensively. We've been following some people who are homeless who have been looking for shelter beds. And in an August East conference, he said there's always shelter beds available.
There are.
And these people have found that that's not the case. I mean, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah. So I've seen some of that reporting. These are individual circumstances, and it's difficult to know from the outside, just based on the limited reporting that was provided, what those individual circumstances are. What I would tell you is you can look at the city's dashboard for our shelter system. You can see on any given day, we do have some beds available. Not always a lot. On certain days, it's very few. But it is never the case that across our entire system of safe parking, safe sleeping, and congregate and non-congregate shelters that all beds are available. All beds are taken. My expectation for all of our providers is that they get people in those beds. Now, we use a coordinated entry process, meaning to say that you can't just show up at a shelter and be accommodated. We ask people to go through housing navigators and caseworkers to make sure that we have the housing with the services that we know address the underlying causes of homelessness. Many people get there through our San Diego Police Department hot team. Others come through our coordinated street outreach efforts, generally led by PATH, but also involving organizations like the Downtown San Diego Partnership and others. We encourage people to utilize those processes to get into the system and then to get housed. I would note that it's often not as fast as we want. There are a lot of challenges on all sides where this is concerned. But the truth is that we continue to rapidly expand the amount of shelter beds that we have in our city, and my expectation is that they get used.
So just for the record, you're saying there always are shelter beds available?
So here's the thing. We have sadly, it's true that when we contact individuals on the street, most of them decline services. Chief, am I right on that?
Absolutely.
We have any number of explanations that are given. I don't want to sleep on the top bunk. I don't want that option. I'd prefer this option. Because of that, as a consequence, the beds sometimes don't get fully used. Now, there may be people who are out there looking for that, and whether or not they're coming through the right system, I personally would like to remove all barriers and allow people to flow in, but there are reasons why we need to triage people. Some folks won't do well in a non-congregate environment. Some will do better in a congregate environment. Some people want a senior-only option, a woman-only option. The list goes on and on. There are filters that are involved in this that sometimes also result in this. The challenge I have, Kelly, is the expectation that has been set where we expect these beds to be used. My administration is to lower the barriers on access to shelters. If you want to bring your pet, you can bring your pet, you can bring your partner, you want different options. We're trying to remove every excuse that there is for people to enter the system. And our expectation, again, is that the beds that the taxpayers of the city pay for are used. And when they're not used, this mayor is very upset and expects better of everyone involved, both the individuals who are declining services on our streets as well as the providers who sometimes don't get those beds filled at the end of the night. Every bed the taxpayer pays for should be used.
In regards to a sidewalk vendor, so right now, the way things stand, if there's a sidewalk vendor, let's say downtown, that does not have proper permit, license, maybe he's not even in the place where he or she needs to be, can a code enforcement officer, someone with authority, remove the actual vendor, remove the property, the cart? What does that situation look like right now?
Ask the chief to feel that.
Yeah, great question. So under the current ordinance, I know that we're going to be moving forward with some amendments. So first and foremost, I'm glad you mentioned code compliance. This is not a criminal event, if you will. So there's I believe it's a 4-step process. They have to be warned, then they can be cited, and eventually down the road, you can impound the cart if you meet all this criteria. I can tell you right now on the basic amendment, right, or the basic ordinance right now, it's very difficult to cite anybody. Most people will not cooperate with us, provide us a name, and so it's very difficult for law enforcement to be, because it's not criminal. And so we've been working very closely with code compliance. We've been working very closely with our health department, the county health department. We did another operation this past weekend. We're seeing the number of vendors coming down, but I'm welcoming these amendments because we do have hazardous situations out there where you have open flame, you have people using propane, the health part about sanitary food being served to citizens of San Diego. So I welcome these amendments.
If I can, maybe just one quick follow-up for Elizabeth. I think one of the things I want to draw, and hope that this is understandable, Since the passage of our sidewalk vending ordinance, we have had hundreds of vendors come into compliance. They have legalized permits. They know what the rules are. They've been trained and educated on how this operates. What we have in addition to those authorized and legal and permitted vendors are folks who have not gone through that legal process, who do not have the permits, and who are not educated or following the laws. That has to be dealt with. So I'm encouraged by organizations that have worked with these vendors, brought them into compliance. This is the intent, I think, behind the state law that created this, to create an opportunity for micro enterprise to thrive and maybe eventually grow into a future small, medium, or large business. I think we as Americans want to encourage that behavior. But the continuing operation of unpermitted vendors, folks who are not following the law under the regulation, must be addressed. And certainly hiding behind the First Amendment for some of this commercial activity is something that we can clarify, and I believe that's what Councilmember Campbell is intending to do. And as the Chief says, we both welcome the opportunity to provide more specificity, clarity, remove any vagueness, remove any excuses, and let's get forward with making sure that we regulate our public rights of way for the safety and health of all San Diegans. Kelly, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just one question about this idea of Sunbreak Ranch
Yeah.
in Miramar. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's a private independent effort of a group of folks who are understandably trying to respond to our homelessness crisis. I think there's been reporting about some of the challenges with that. What I would say is that I have been fully supportive of any opportunity to expand our shelter capacity in the city of San Diego. And you look at our comprehensive shelter strategy, where we're not only providing for more congregate and non-congregate options, but some more less traditional options like safe parking lots, safe sleeping sites, etc. We have already stood up 20th and B, as I mentioned a moment ago. That was just 6 weeks or so ago. It is extremely well subscribed. People like it. We're opening one that's about 4 times larger later this month. We are currently working on what we call H Barracks, which is the next sort of larger homeless service facility that was a part of our comprehensive shelter strategy that we anticipate could serve as many as 700 people. So there's this other effort looking to do something very similar to what the city is doing. Listen, we need all the support that we can possibly get. My focus is on proposals and options that we have legal control over, that we believe that we can actually execute upon, because San Diegans want us to see actual tangible progress on this. My administration has been able to increase shelter capacity in our city by about 70% since we took over office. The addition of OLOT, a new domestic violence-related shelter, which will be opening shortly, as well as the H Barracks and the other things we have envisioned. I welcome people's partnership. I welcome their help and support in actually taking these things that we're moving on today and help us get them up and operating faster to get more people off the streets as soon as possible. I know that when people are in our shelter system, they're more likely to break the cycle of homelessness and get permanently housed. I know leaving them on the sidewalk is not a path to do that, and we should do everything we can to get people off the streets as quickly as possible. I encourage, again, folks to support the city's comprehensive shelter strategy. We laid it out, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. We've already stood up 20th and B. As I already shared with you, we're close to opening OLOT. We are making substantial progress, and we could use every San Diegan's help and support to making sure that actually gets done, because the sidewalk is not a home. The street is not a home. These shelters can get people to the housing they need.
Mayor, you've been heavily criticized by Bill Walton lately. Have you talked to him? Has he reached out to you? Are you interested in having a conversation with him? Or what is your response to what he's saying about how you're handling the homeless crisis?
I don't really have a response for him. My response would be, we are continuing to expand our shelter capacity, our ability to serve our homeless population. The unsafe camping ordinance has already proven to be extremely successful in downtown and Balboa Park, and we're expanding that to other parts of our city. I don't pay a lot of attention to critics and criticism. I get the job done, and we're not mission accomplished, far from. But this mayor comes to this building every damn day working my butt off to make sure that we can get more people off the streets. And when you look at the recent homelessness count in downtown San Diego, you will see that we're seeing progress. But I'm not happy. I'm not content. I'm going to keep pushing our providers to get more of these folks into care, to expand the options that we have available to folks. And again, send the signal that the expectation is that people on the streets use those services that taxpayers are providing. Anyone else? Very good. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.